Hi, it's Karen Gilbert from Simply Said with Karen, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am a Canadian demonstrator, and I would like to show you how to create this shaker card using the vintage Christmas. Don't worry about getting the measurements because I will have them in my description and in the blog. So let's get started. I am using Evening Evergreen for the card base, and this is 4 1/4 by 11, and it's scored at 5 1/2. This is the Painted Christmas Designer Series paper, and it is in the annual catalog. It's 2 3/4 inches by 4 1/4. This is soft succulent, and it is 4 by 5 1/4. I'm also using a scrap piece of designer series paper behind the bottle, and this scrap is almost 3, so it really doesn't matter. It's just that we need it to cover the back of the bottle so that all the things don't fall out. And then you need a scrap of basic white to stamp your sentiment on. And we're also using, now these are little beads, and let me tell you of my experience because I don't want it to happen to you as well. I was pouring them into see, they just roll everywhere. I was pouring it into instead of just using my fingers to scoop it out, and I dropped them and they were all over the place. And I don't know if you ever played with ball bearings when you were little, but they react similar to that, just flying everywhere. It's really hard to corral them. So that's a tip that I'm sure you can use. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use the bottle punch, the white piece of paper that is 3 1/2 inches long, and one of these bottles which have tape on either side, so they're really easy to attach. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to punch the bottle and try to get it centered, and you'll know it's centered by having equal space between paper and the end of the punch. Now just set that piece that you just punched aside, and you will be able to use it on another project. I'm going to use my Stamparatus because it's somewhat easier to stamp, as this is a 3-step stamp. I'm going to clean this off. Because this is photopolymer stamp, I'm using the foam pad to keep everything clean. I have a piece of the square grid paper, the small one, and I always stick a piece of water. I'm going to stamp before I do the shaker part with the bottle, only because I want to use my Stamparatus to do that, and believe me, I tried to do it with the bottle in there and it doesn't even stamp. So we'll go from here. It's a set of 3 flowers and some leaves, and there's pine cones, and then there's centers for the flowers. So it's easier to line it up with. So I'm going to start with the flowers, and I'm going to come down here a little bit. Put your magnet on, make sure it's even and it's lined up with the washi tape. Okay, so we'll put the stamp on, the lid down, and I'm going to stamp with real red ink. So I have my little brush here that puts some additional pressure onto the stamp so that you can get a good image. So I will do it again, and that's the beauty Stamparatus. You can stamp as many times as you want. So now we're going to take that one off, and we're going to put some leaves on, and that looks good there. Well, again, we'll close it, and again I should cover off, and we're going to stamp this with Evening Evergreen. I see where there's a little gap between the flower and the stamp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean my stamp and line it up. We're just going to go ahead. We'll try and figure it out later because the bow might cover it up. That's the beauty of stamping. You can just improvise as you go along. So this is the stamp with the pine cones and the flower center. Now you'll see where there's a big flower center, so you want to line it up there. Sorry if my head's in the way. Now we'll see how that goes. Press it down, and I'm going to stamp this with 2, and you want it to have yellow centers. You can always use your stamping markers and color the pine cones with the crumb cake and the centers with Daffodil Delight or something. Why won't that? There, so you can see where the pine cones are. Your photopolymer stamp regain there if you wash them in warm soapy water and then dry them. Make sure that they're completely dry and then they will stick again. The same with on your block. Okay, so that's it for the flowers and the leaves. So now let's go ahead and get our bottle done. Get these inks out of the way because I miss fumble fingers. So we're going to actually start with pushing this through. So we'll fill up this effervescent elements. So what we want to do is take off the backing off, and the best way is just to turn it over. So now here comes the hard, is controlling these. So I'm just going to take a little bit at a time and not have that big disaster that I had the other day. And I think that's enough. And very carefully, we'll cover that up, very carefully take off the backing off of this. Don't de-escape. And we're just going to put this piece of paper that's blue, excuse me, and stick it down like this. So it just gives some color and make sure it's really good so those beads don't escape. So there, that is your shaker bottle. Okay, now we can just put the card together. And I'm going to emboss it with this embossing folder, which is Winter. It's a 3D embossing folder. Now it's small, so it won't cover across, but because we can still do it, just line it up. There's a line there. Just line it up with that line and put it halfway. Excuse me for a minute while I go and emboss this. So I have it all embossed, and we did it in 2 stages. So I did one side and then the other side. Now this goes down here. So I'm going to attach it with multi-purpose liquid glue. I guess my bottle's getting empty. I'm going to have to fill it up again. I really like these little bottles because they control the amount of glue that comes out. And then it's not sticking or running out from underneath the Okay, so we're going to put it on with a border, and I like to lay it out flat so I can see what it is I'm doing and lining it up. So now we can put the designer series paper down, and this is 2 3/4 by 4 1/4, and it's the Painted Christmas in the annual catalog. You can get it there. This is on at an angle. Now I'm going to put this on at a bit of an angle. It'll look like an angle, but it's not. And I'm going to put that on with dimensional. Last but not least, we'll just take the backings off these, and we'll be ready to do the sentiment and put the bow on. We're going to use some of the enamel effect, what they're called, pearlized enamel. Sometimes getting these backs off easier said. Okay, so now I'm going to just stamp a sentiment, and we're going to use Making Spirits Bright. And this is on a spare piece or a little scrap, and I'm going to stamp that in real red if I can find it. I don't know how I managed to lose things, but I do. And then we're going to die cut it, dies. We're going to cut it out with a die from the seasonal layers, and I'll just take it to my stamparatus and cut it out. This ribbon is about 6.5 inches. I'm just going to do a little bow. We'll take a piece of ribbon, and this one is about 7.5 inches long, and then just tie a bunny ear bow. Okay, there's the bow. I'll just trim the ends, fluff it up a bit, and it's going to go with my bow on, and I'm going to use mini dots, glue dots to do that, and then just attach the sentiment on the side. Okay, the last thing we need to do is put some of these pearlized enamel effect, and I want to use the red ones. And what you do is you can just shake it a little bit, and then this needs to get set aside to dry, because otherwise you're just going to smear it. Start off with a small. Okay, now I've smeared it. I'm going to have to figure out something to put there so it doesn't look so messy. So there's your card using the Vintage Christmas stamp set. and the bottle pun. I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you can just take a few moments out of your busy schedule, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and then you will receive notification when I post a video. So thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and there will be some link in that has links to my sign up page and my blog and my store. Again, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you'll come back. Thank you. Bye now.